Welcome to the Counterculture Beauty Tour. Together we'll explore how beauty has changed at Boots over the last 175 years.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Sophie Clapp and I'm the Boots Company Archivist.
And I'm Richard Hornsey. I'm a historian from the University of Nottingham, and we were the co-curators of the Counterculture exhibition that you are currently standing in, and we're currently in the Boots Archive, which is up here.
Thought we'd show you the Boots Archive and give you a bit more information about some of the things that you're going to see in the exhibition.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Please click on the link marked Cabinet at the bottom right of the screen to begin. Please follow me to the next stop. In the early 1900s, women shopped in chemist stores to buy their everyday beauty products. These items were associated with health and were often marketed as much for their healthcare properties as they were for beauty.
Early beauty products at Boots were really quite basic, and they were designed to do more than just one thing, and that way they could be economic.
Please spend time looking at the exhibit, and when you are ready, click on the link marked Fancy Goods at the bottom right of the screen. After 5 minutes, I will automatically move on to the next location. Please follow me to the next stop. After the First World War, cosmetics became an important marker of social change. Boots' elegant department-style stores offered dedicated beauty zones for women who had both the time and the money.
At the beginning of the 20th century, the Boots department store, which were growing at this time, really enabled beauty to have a dedicated space within our stores.
Please follow me to the next stop.
Hello, my name's Neil Walker. I'm Head of Visual Arts Programming at Lakeside Arts, which is an art centre in Nottingham, the UK, which is part of the University of Nottingham. I programme, curate and organise exhibitions of largely 20th century and contemporary art in the Djanogly Gallery, part of Lakeside. I was introduced to the robot through our team at the university working in the Mixed Reality Lab, which is part of computing science. And we had a trial demonstration in an exhibition of sculpture by the artist Saad Qureshi early in 2024. Having seen what was possible there, it was agreed to produce a more finished presentation for an exhibition held in the summer called Counterculture. This was an unusual exhibition for the Djanogly, in that it explored the history of the Nottingham-based pharmacy store Boots, and was therefore more in the nature of social history than visual art. It did, however, lend itself to the kind of narrative guide that the robot was able to deliver. Being mindful of the safety of high-value objects, art or otherwise, as well as our visitors, of course, I was very impressed by how well the robot could be programmed to navigate the exhibition space on both occasions, neatly moving around displays and pausing for any members of the public that crossed its path. The people who used the robot tour in the Boots exhibition were very impressed by it, and the novelty certainly attracted the attention of the visitors within the exhibition space at the same time. We didn't use the robot to give remote live presentations, but instead a pre-recorded program was delivered by the exhibition curators. The principal advantages I would highlight are the possibility of being able to offer repeated, personalized tours without the physical presence of a curator or other guide being needed, and tours that can be experienced at the convenience of the visitor rather than them having to book for a programmed event at a specific time. This obviously has particular advantages at weekends. I like the fact that the robot tour can tell different alternative stories to the ones told through the exhibition installation route and wall-based textual interpretation. And so it has the potential to allow a multiplicity of voices to be heard. It can also be targeted at specific groups or individuals with special interests. It can also incorporate different media, including video, sound, and music, to tell us that story, as well as incorporating visuals to enhance the visitor experience by introducing contextual or comparative visual material. I'd certainly use the robot again within an appropriate exhibition, and I can see the attraction of the novelty, especially for tours targeted at children. I think one consideration for anybody also interested in using the robot would be its potential for disturbance to other people using the exhibition space. So perhaps using the robot under more controlled circumstances, or with the use of headphones, earpieces, might be something that would work better to make it less invasive. But on the whole, I think the device has great potential to add to the armory of engagement tools for museum and exhibition curators.
Hello, my name is Gisela Reyes-Cruz, and I am an assistant professor at the University of Nottingham. I am based in the School of Computer Science, and I do research on human-computer interaction and human-robot interaction, which basically is about understanding how we use technology, how we interact with it, what we think and feel about it, and how it is adopted and accepted. So as part of a UK research program called the Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub, I have been leading this smaller one-year project called TerPlay, which stands for Telepresence Robots Playground. And the main objective of this project has been to engage with organizations and stakeholders to explore together the potential for robot adoption and deployment, with a particular interest in museums. So from a research perspective, the core part of this project was to explore what happens when we take a robot out of a lab where everything is very much controlled, and we put it in a public space where it's full of people minding their own business. How are they going to react? How are they going to use the robot or not? Will they find it valuable or interesting or fun, or maybe not? From an organizational and logistics perspective, we needed to first work out a number of aspects, such as what kind of activities should a robot do in a museum? What type of robot could be useful and suitable for a museum? What's the value for the museum and for the visitors in the first place? Who are the people that need to be involved in the process of a robot deployment? For instance, museum management, curators, other staff, but also people that can provide the technical support for the robot. So overall, we started with very exploratory questions. We didn't have any of these predefined, and we were very open to explore and decide together with the museum all the possibilities for a robot deployment. So we ended up doing a robot guided tour using a temi robot that we deployed for a week in July of 2024 at the Lakeside Arts gallery space in the University of Nottingham.
So my name is Sophie Clapp, and I'm the company archivist for Boots UK and co-curator with Dr. Richard Hornsey on the Counterculture exhibition at Nottingham's Lakeside Gallery. The Counterculture exhibition was really exploring the history of shopping over the last 175 years, but using the examples of Boots shops to really tell that story. So Boots are celebrating its 175th anniversary this year, and we wanted to create an exhibition that was relevant for the local community. And so we looked at the theme of shopping as something that everybody could relate to. And hopefully what we were telling in the exhibition was their story and their associations with the company. So the robot tours were something I personally have never experienced, and it was kind of hard for me to understand what that really meant. But I guess the driver for me was that archive and heritage exhibitions, certainly from a company point of view, can feel a bit dated, and we're constantly being challenged to imagine our history in new and exciting ways. And for me, being able to create this really innovative new tour for our visitors, and our visitors absolutely being people from the company, felt like a really brilliant way to represent history in a really exciting way. So I was intrigued. I wanted to understand more. And so working with the team, it was explained really easily in terms of how we might use it. I think the one drawback really was the lack of time. And if we'd have had more time, I think there would have been some other ways that we could have deployed the robot that would have had an added value for people who couldn't get to see the exhibition internally, and obviously being an international company that we could have used more broadly. But sadly there wasn't time for that, but there absolutely was the potential for it. So on those levels, that was really what excited me. What I loved about the robot tour was just the sense of theatre within the exhibition space, the kind of surprise that visitors, they weren't really expecting it to be there, they didn't understand how it worked, and then they were delighted to have this additional aid when they were touring around the exhibition. So whenever there was the exhibition in action, it definitely felt like there was an added buzz within the exhibition, and obviously something that we hadn't imagined and obviously couldn't create without these experts. So I was really thankful and felt really fortunate that we were able to use it within our exhibition. I guess what was unexpected about using the robot was the additional information, which kind of seems obvious, but I was just expecting it to be additional information about some of the captions. Obviously, we were limited on space in terms of what we could say, but actually the way that the team asked us to think about content for the robot was to create a theme and something that wasn't necessarily obvious to the user, or to the visitor rather. So really adding value to their experience with something that was slightly hidden. So that challenged us to come up with the right theme that we could layer on additional content in terms of the video footage, but then also the archival footage. So that was really lovely. That gave us additional ways of communicating with the audience directly, but with material that we weren't using, and also the themes that we could really bring to life that wouldn't have been obvious with the tiny captions that we had. So it was interesting from our perspective to come up with new captions effectively on the content that was already on display, but hopefully a real bonus to the visitors, that they felt that they were getting an added layer, an added way to look at the material on display through a different thematic approach.
Hi, I'm Richard Solly from Robotics for Good. We provided support to the project team and gallery for the robot configuration and deployment. For the initial setup, we got the robot to map the exhibition space and then marked on the map the tour stopping points. Virtual walls were added to the map to ensure that the robot could only access safe areas, and pathways drawn on the map specified the preferred routes for the robot to take. I think that the video content created by the curators made for a very compelling tour because it provided a completely different perspective on the exhibition. Although we only had time to deliver the beauty tour, it would have been nice to create multiple tours, each with a different theme, or perhaps create a tour for children. It would also be great to develop more interactive features with the robot so that the visitors could be given a more personalised experience, and access additional content by using things like QR codes, for example. Finally, it would have been nice to utilise the telepresence features of the robot, allowing visitors to come and visit the exhibition remotely from wherever they may be.
Hello, I'm Dr. Richard Hornsey. I'm an associate professor in
modern British history at the University of Nottingham, and I was co-curator with Sophie Clapp of the Boots Archive of the Counterculture exhibition at the Djanogly Gallery. So my role in the exhibition was really to provide the historical context. Sophie has an encyclopedic knowledge of Boots, and my role was to really think about the social and cultural environment in which Boots was operating and tease out some of those hidden significances that aren't necessarily obvious from the archival material itself. I think what appealed about the robot tour was probably two things. Firstly was the ability to do much more than you could do in the ordinary exhibition, where you're tied to just a couple of captions and a few objects. You could certainly bring in so much more material, and that could be visual material, or it could be audio-visual material, or it could be text. And the other thing that really appealed was being able to film it in the archive itself, so that you could give the viewers access to a different space. You could show them around the archive, and you could show them the wealth of archival material that's there, and give them a kind of behind-the-scenes sneak peek. I think there was a lot of opportunity maybe to integrate the technology into the curation from the start, and to think about a couple of the things that you could do, both in more interactivity, so that there was more choice available for the viewer, and also more communication between viewers as well. I think there's a really exciting opportunity to record comments or thoughts, which would be anonymized, which then other viewers could look at, or maybe see a poll of what other viewers have said about things. It did feel one of the tensions of the robot, I think, were at the end of each section, it said, spend some time looking at the display. And I wasn't sure if visitors knew what to do at that point and what looking at the display meant. And I think with a little bit more pre-programming of us as curators, we could have asked them more specific questions or directed their eyes to particular things and asked them to look out for things or to answer particular questions that I think would have enriched their experience. So I think mainly that I think the challenge is moving away from a kind of didactic model of interaction. It's a good way of getting messages across for people who don't read the captions. Because when you're doing the exhibition, you always do it with this thing at the back of your head that says, there's assuming, and you try and get rid of it, and you try and fight it, but you're assuming that everyone's going to read everything. And so you're like, oh, this caption on this object speaks back to that caption on that object, and they'll make a really interesting connection between this and this, which in reality they don't, because they're just going through maybe reading 1 in 4 captions. And one thing that the robot can do is that it can create those connections for you, because it's only looking at 1 in 4 objects.